Welcome today to this session. The title is Data Over Troubled Water. I am the honor to introduce you and drive you along the session together with my colleague Rafael Jimenez from Setaqua. He is the head of digital team at Setaqua. I'm Roberto Di Bernardo. I work for Ingegneria Informatica, and I'm also leading the Smart Governance and Smart City Subworking Group of PDVA that supported this session. Now, some joking with the words, this session is about leakage of data in the digital water. In the sense that if we look at the data management chain in the water sector, there are still some gap to solve, to fill. If we talk about the city twin transition challenge, it's clearly one of the challenge we need to address timely. With twin transition, we means a green and digital transition in cities. And we know that data space represents a key enabler to support this transition and to achieve goals within the Green Deal, but also the Sustainable Development Goals, looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. The Commission has defined specific strategies supporting this process through the missions. And in particular, if we look at the missions, a systemic approach, it's pushed. Talking in terms of community, key community systems. One of these key community systems in cities is water management. Now, if from one side we need to increase the resilience and sustainability of water services through data-driven or evidence-based decision-making to support the optimization of resources, to enhance the healthy and safety in water service at city level, but also to minimize the impact, the negative impact on society and economy by climate change. On the other side, data in the water sector is still dispersed, not standardized, and below quality. In this sense, data space is a big opportunity to support to merge and integrate data, new data sources, improving the quality of data available, improving the sharing of this data from different sectors in order to generate value-added insight from their nexus. How we are addressing this? It's as said before, it's an integrated way, so involving different perspectives, and in particular, we are working on it with several initiatives and associations. In particular, and this is how we built the session today, we are complementing the work we are doing within BDVA together with Water Europe, bringing the voice of the Water EU ecosystem, with Fireware Foundation, of course, bringing the perspective of open software in Europe, and from Open and Agile Smart Cities, with bringing the voice of cities looking at open specifications. But we should also consider the work on field, so the voice from utilities and the business. So for this, another keynote speaker is Akbar. Then, of course, we need to consider the research agenda, and in the session, in particular in the second part of the session, we will have the involvement of 3 research projects: PathoSet, Impetus, and Wqms. So the session, the key focus of the session is on the main channel through the digital transformation of water sector, of data sharing in the water sector in particular, and showing you some successful story on using data, AI, for the digitalization of the water sector again. So please enjoy the session, and bear in mind that this is an interactive session, so we are expecting you to provide us with questions via B2Match Q&A chat. So now my time is over, and I will pass the floor to the first keynote speaker. So I would ask Eloisa Vargiu to take the floor. Eloisa has a background in electronics and computer engineering. She is currently working in SETAQUA. In particular, she is involved in the Water 4.0 research activities in SETAQUA, and she is the leader of the Water Digital System and Interoperability Working Group of Water Europe. So please, Eloisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberto, for your introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here today with all of you and to have the opportunity to represent Water Europe here, because I'm working in SETAQUA Water Technology Center, but I'm also the leader of the Water Europe Digital Water System Interoperative Water Group that I'm representing here, and this working group is colleagued with Roberto. So let me introduce first what is Water Europe, starting from the very beginning of the association, that before it was a platform that was defined by European Commission in 2004. And then it has been changed, and in 2007 it has been transformed into a member-based multi-stakeholder platform under the Belgian law. In 2013 is when they started to call it Water Europe. It is a multi-stakeholder organization that represents the full diversity of water value chain, because there are participant members from the different roles. Water service providers, water users, technology providers, public authorities, and civil society. In total, 237 organizations are participating now in Water Europe, located in 27 countries. The mission of Water Europe is to increase coordination and collaboration, to enhance the performance of water service providers, water users, technology providers, in order to solve water-related global challenges. The vision of Water Europe is more or less what I'm going to present today, that is the water smart society. And the core values revolve around the concept of connection, leadership, and results orientation. And the main objective is to have all together the industry sector in the water sector, in order to have research and development projects, to have innovation, and to proactively raise the importance of the water sector. Inside of Water Europe, there are several working groups that have been divided in different clusters. In particular, the cluster that is more interesting for the DBA and for the Data Week is the last one in this slide, that is the Digital Transition Cluster, that is composed of two working groups, the Water Sensors and Tools and the Digital Water System and Interoperability Water Group. So the water sensor and tools is aimed to improve research and development activities on innovative sensors, is interested in explore all future application and goals that new smart meters can offer, and they want to identify future trends in the sector. I put here the contact of the working group leaders in case you want to contact them because you are interested to have them, for example, in some project. From the other side, we have the Digital Water System and Interoperability Working Group. That is the one that I represent together with Roberto. And our goal is to contribute to the creation of a water data space in the context of the European data space that for sure you know that is something very, very important, very relevant now from the European perspective. And inside of the Green Deal and the urban data spaces, we think that we have to concentrate to think also about on the water data space, because we want to contribute to relevant initiative, and of course we also are aimed to participate in projects in that direction to create this water data space. So taking as baseline the document that has been published by the Water Europe regarding their overall vision, I want to give you here some insights regarding how to go towards a water smart society. So water is something really relevant right now. Is something that we need from a social perspective, from economical perspective, of course from an environmental perspective. So it's for that we have to go behind the problem of water scarcity, or the problem regarding the different distribution of water in the world, this kind of thing, to have water for all. And to do that, we have a lot of challenges to reach. And the vision of Water Europe is that the water scarcity and pollution become only one a nightmare, and they will be avoided, and that water, energy, and resource loops are largely closer to foster a circular economy. And we have to take into account climate change events that more and more are really important, and of course they affect the water system. And we have to rethink and to work on the European business that is dependent on water thrives, and we have to do that as a result of forward-looking research and innovation. So, which are the needs of this vision? Because Water Europe is so interested in that we need water quality and use. Now we have a lack of insight in water quality and use, so we don't have all the information. So we need to add some kind of measurement, some kind of monitoring, and some kind of data analysis of all the gathered data to have more results, more insights, and to be able to support decision makers and policy makers in their decision. And it could be we are more or less all engineering here, so the idea is to have it in an autonomous way. And another need is linked to the increasing impact of climate change events. So we need to rethink about the infrastructure, the water infrastructure. We need a robust, flexible, and resilient infrastructure, but right now often they are outdated, so they are not complying with this need. And the third point is the increasing interdependence of stakeholders and policy areas, and we need to put together from a governance point of view all the relevant policy makers to have this shift, this change in our view. And so the idea is to have this paradigm shift towards a sustainable and circular water smart society. And Water Europe identifies these 4 tier future proof. One of them is new digital and water technology that is the one that is more related with our work. But the other three are of course very relevant. They are developing a water smart economy, rethink and redesign the water distribution and water service systems, and enabling inclusive multi-stakeholder governance. So from the digital point of view, this is a picture that is from Water Europe, and they try here to schematize the big picture. We have river basin, we have industrial systems, we have to think about urban areas, and something that probably Margarita we talk about in her talk. We have to think also on rural areas, and we have to think at regional and also at international level. So we need, first of all, to gather all the possible data, and it could be done by using sensors. And we need to do something with those data. So we have a very large amount of data, as probably Daniel in his talk is going to talk about that. And so what we can do with this big amount of data, we may use machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques to analyze those data and to perform some intelligent way to support decision makers, policy makers in the overall smart water management. So it is a very big picture, but it is very relevant because it summarizes more or less all the dimensions that from a digital point of view have to be taken into account. And of course, we have to take into account also the role of artificial intelligence. Is something that is not so really emphasized in the vision of Water Europe, but is something that is really, really important, because we have a large amount of data, as I already said, and we have to be able to use those data to perform innovation. In particular, for example, we may use those data to monitoring environmental impacts and trends, and we may use those data to give support, autonomous support to the decision makers and policy makers. So there is a clear space now for developing and applied methods, models, and tools for smart water management. And those tools, those algorithms, those methods may have a real impact from a social, economic, and also environmental point of view. That is very important to consider the three of them to increase the sustainability. And so to conclude, the vision of water impact has a very high impact, and it is really important to stress this impact, because it's not a matter that, okay, let's change things and now we want a smart water society. No, we are doing that because we have a real impact from the societal, the economic and environmental point of view. And so, for example, I put here the three main impacts that will be affected by this shift, this paradigm shift, and they are the reduction of the impact of EU society on natural water resources, and to recognize the true value of water and boosting the EU market as well as global competitiveness in the water industry, and secure our society's long-term resilience, stability, and sustainability with regard to water. So the three of them are really relevant, and it's important to take into account. It is the goal that Water Europe will want to reach in the near future. So that's it from my side. Thank you for your attention. I put here the content from both Water Europe on the left and myself on the right. And also, if you are interested in Water Europe, and if I gave you some ideas that you want to share, please join the Water Europe community. I put here the link.
Many thanks, Eloisa. Thanks for your speech. Quite interesting. It was important to show what Water Europe is and how it's is moving in order to fight with the challenge we have in front of us. You talked about a big picture. You present a big picture of water Europe. Of course, one of the element of this big picture is, as you said, the digital and water technologies. In this sense, now I would like to move and to introduce the next speaker that will help us to understand how some initiative at Europe are supporting the implementation of the availability of open software EU-based. In particular, I move now and I will leave the floor to Frank Legal, that is the CEO of EGM, an innovative small and medium enterprise focusing on integration and validation of IoT technologies in different field of the market. In particular, one of these is the water. He is driving the company into developing the deployment of IoT technologies on that sector. He has a strong background also on standardization activities involved in ETSI activities, in particular, look in the building side, so the CHIM standardized activities, but also, and the reason why he's involved today here, it's can represent the FIWARE Foundation. In particular, Frank is leading the water domain committee of FIWARE. Beside, of course, representing also the interface with the FIWARE Technical Steering Committee of FIWARE. So, Frank, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberto. So nice to be with you. So, as Roberto introduced, I'm going to speak about the open solutions for interoperable water digitalization. I think Roberto said more or less everything about who am I. So, besides managing the EGM company, I'm involved in a number of activities in ETSI, in FIWARE, in the ICT for Water cluster. So don't need to spend much time on that. Okay, what do we mean when we speak about open solutions for interoperable water digitalization? From my perspective, there are two things that we need. We need first the open standard, because without that, we can't agree on interoperable interface models and so on. And when I say open standard, it's a standard which is made by some committee, recognized committee, not obliged to be a standard institute, but to have some community behind, not only one company. And then open standard itself is not enough. We need as well some implementation of it, and open implementation, ideally being open source, so many people can play with the standard, interact, and so on. And using that, we can start having these interoperable open system, where we can have the interoperability from that point of view. We can, with the open source component, we can reuse them, which also contribute to the Green Deal objectives, not reinventing the wheel each time. We need a new component. We can extend, because at the end, what we are building is a community, and for the end users, it avoids going to any vendor locking, which is quite important, in particular for some public organizations. What I'm going to focus on here is activities that we are doing in the water sectors in relations with the ETSI, which is the European Telecom Standard Institute, the FIWARE Foundation that you probably heard about, which is a wide community in Europe which emerged from past European projects and which is still animating a living community of technology contributors, users, maintaining open source enablers, and so on and so on. And all of these being backed by the European Union in most of the aspects. Few words on ETSI IGSIM. So IGSIM stands for Industry Specification Group on Context Information Management. This means that this is a specific group in ETSI where we can have many organizations coming and contributing, even if they're not members of ETSI, because sometimes it's a showstopper to be a member of such an organization. Here it's wider. And the idea of this group or the mission is to allow exchange of, let's say, any kind of information, being between any end users, between different types of databases, causing obviously the intent of things. And the idea is to be able to exchange information. And what is the results is what we call the NGSI LD specification, which specifies both interfaces and data models. Overall, this specification is made on a central component being a broker, which is able to deal with context information using any kind of database, any kind of information. It's IoT, as I was saying, but it can be multimedia information, it can be social network, it can be open data, and so on. It has to be simple coding. Okay, quite often we invent complicated data models, but at the end we have the web developers who want to make it, or who have to make it. And the idea here is really to make it simple for the web developers, so it can be quite adopted rapidly. And it has a complete data models where we can trace the source of data. We can contribute or ensure GDPR, privacy management, but also we have implementation, or we see implementations which can deal with high data rates, for example, which are in use in IoT. And then you can connect any kind of external applications such as AI applications. About Fireware, so I was saying that the Fireware Foundation is a large community in Europe, and this organization is itself widely or largely contributing to this group in ETSI. And they're contributing to the definition of the API, and obviously they took it as a basis for their community. So all components developed or made available in the Fireware community are compliant with this NGS-LD specification. So this means that as a user, you can go pick the components you need, glue them together, and then you get compatible with this specification. It's not only a European specification, even if it's part of the EU rolling plan on ICT standard, it's also having some impact more at the world scale. And just for an example, it has been recently adopted by the Indian Bureau of Standards, so the BIS. So it's really making its way. In addition, I was saying these specifications defines the interfaces, and data model only provide, let's say, the basis for the data model. And then you can connect, you can plug your own data models. And based on that, Fireware Foundation has been initiating the Smart Data Models programs, which is completely open to the community, where you can go, use some of the models which are being developed there, propose your own, and so on in the community. And today, it's more than 600 data models which have been proposed, more than 14 key terms which are available. So that's really a living community today. It started with the cities, smart cities focused initially, and now it's more than 200 cities worldwide which are using these Fireware instances. It's also recommended in some aspects by the OASC as minimum interoperable mechanism. We'll hear about that later on. But now it's going to other domains like agri-food, industry, water, energy, or ports. How it looks like. Roberto was speaking about digital twin, and that's really one of the core aspects in this specification, is that we model things as entities, and each entity is itself a digital twin representation of a real world asset. And using that, we can capture the current state, actuate on the components, and query or get notification on it. And we define different of entities like pumps, pipes, incidents, reservoir. All of these, you can find all the details of these models in the smartdatamodels.org community. And this has been contributed by a number of projects because, you know, defining interoperable data model takes time. If you build your own one on your side, you can go fast. If you start discussing with people, then it takes time. And for that aspect, over the past year, we saw a group of 5 research projects, Aqua Stress, Digital Water City, Fireware for Water, NIDES and SCORE, which have been grouping together and contributing to these initiatives. So they all agreed, okay, let's use this firewall interface and expand it to make it usable or ready to go in the water domain. And especially on the data model, what they did is that, okay, what do we need as projects for all use cases to go toward implementations? And from that, they define a number of use cases, looking at the different steps of the water life cycle, starting from the source extraction, usage, distribution, consumption, treatment, and so on, express some needs, which were taken by the community of data modelers, looking at what was already existing. We avoid reinventing the wheel each time we can, putting it together, and then providing some specialized NGSLD model for the water domain. And these have been used and demonstrated by all these different projects. Looking at these and the growing attraction of the water sector, Fiber Foundation decided last year to create a new mission support committee in their community. They already had 4, covering the cities, the energy, the industry, and the agri-food sectors. And then they said, okay, water is one of the key domains of the coming years, and we have to treat it quite specifically. And then they initiated that mission support committee last year. Beginning of the year, we had some elections where chair were selected. I'm quite happy to be chairman of this group together with Aitor from Eurecat and Davide from engineering. What we do here is really to build on both aspects. Looking at we know the value of data, we know the value of water, and how we can help with all fiber technology, with NGSLD specification, taking the best of what is needed on both aspects, putting them together to try to solve one of the key challenges of the coming years we'll have on Earth, probably with water. Today we discussed about oil quite a lot, but water is going to probably be more challenging in the coming year. And as Eloisa was mentioning, really is at the place where we need to be able to go toward open and interoperable solutions. What do we do there? Again, we look at the complete water life cycle. Here I like this diagram, which has been proposed by the ICT for water cluster of that project, which is defining the whole aspects of the water life cycle, from sources, treatment, distribution, consumption, collection, treatment, and so on. So all these aspects are of interest and have to be covered. But water is not a unique domain, and that's where these NGSLD fiber aspects are quite interesting, because water is closely related to other domains. Energy, of course, we use water to generate energy, but treating water consumes a lot of energy as well. Water is essential in the agriculture domain, but at the same time, agriculture is said to pollute water and so on. So we have to be able to connect water-related data with data from other domains as well. And that's where an architecture which is cross-domain, able to tackle different fields together, is quite essential. And that's where these are the aspects that we will tackle all together in this domain committee. And again, this committee is free. So please, if you want to join, do not hesitate, contact us, and we're happy to work with you on these aspects. I thank you for your time, and do not hesitate if you have any questions.
Thank you, Frank. Nice speech indeed. If I had to take some key message here, I highlight some words in particular about open standard, where you said that open standard means in particular that there is a community behind. So not necessarily a standardized body, but a community behind. You talked about in terms of no vendor lock-in. You introduce the context of the concept of context information management. You talked about smart data models and the minimum interoperable mechanism. That somehow it's already related to what we are discussing now in the next speech, because we have talked about general challenge on water. We are talking about open technology to support the challenge, but it's important, as you mentioned, the open standard, the open specifications. That should be led by a community. In particular, now we are talking about a community made by cities. So with this, I would introduce the next speaker, that is Margherita Campolargo. Her background is on architecture and urban and social sustainability. She has been working in several years in urban planning and project management, just to mention some project, My Neighborhood project and Human Smart Cities network. She also was a consultant for the Porto City Council, and also she was the head of Porto Digital's Smart Cities unit, as well as innovation and governance consultants for the World Bank. Now she is community and project manager at Open and Agile Smart Cities. So please, Margherita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberto. First of all, let me thank you for the invitation. I'm just going to share my screen. Just one moment. I don't know where it went. Okay. Here it is. Okay. I think that you can see it now.
Yes.
So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you once again for the invitation. It was really nice to have these two previous presentations because it facilitates my work. Basically, you have been already contextualized in several things. Here I am today talking about voices of the cities. All of that was mentioned. We are talking about, of course, the cities, the smart cities as a whole, and this contemplates, of course, different challenges, whether they are more related to sustainability, water consumption, or others, more into social innovation or digital innovation. So basically, OASC, I will briefly present you the OASC, and basically what we want or what we aim at is bringing together the smart cities and the communities to shape a global market for digital services. Of course, this is not done only with cities. This is also done with other partners, but we believe that cities should be the front runners of this process, and that they actually should lead by sharing their needs and their specifications. So we are talking about, OASC was launched in 2015 with, at the time, 31 cities. Today you can see that we have more than 155 cities. We're actually almost reaching the 160 cities in 31 different countries. And this, of course, enables us to not only have an European view, but a global overview of the needs. As I was telling you, it is fairly important for us to have actually different partners, because we do believe that all of these solutions and digital services should be actually validated and tested in a real context by piloting or by developing and implementing specific projects. And this is done, of course, aligned with all the trends, the big trends and the big programs and the big financial investments that are going around Europe and the world, but also with companies and service providers that might test and help us to develop all this digital services. Of course, it is important for us. Why are we focused on cities? This is also important for us to share. So basically, we know that for the past centuries, cities have been in a privileged place as front runners of change and transformation. And we know that, for example, in Europe, they are home to 75% of the population. So this means that we actually know that cities are can lead this transformation for three main aspects, or based on three main aspects. One, their buying power. They are contributing a lot, about 80% global-wide, to the GDP of the GDP worldwide. So it is important for them to be as well involved in this process. Then they are closer to citizens. And if we're talking about all kinds of global environment consumption, water, air quality, energy, whatever we might need, then we need to know what the users' needs are specifically, and those are citizens. So the close relationship between cities and their citizens is very important. Then the third one is because they are transversal. They actually do engage in tackling the grand challenges of our time in a transversal way. They suffer, let's say, all of these challenges. So it is important to also have a work that is developed in a cross-sectorial movement or approach. So it is important also to understand that organizations have been sometimes stuck in the past, and it's important to advance with that. So we've done many studies, many projects. I'm just here giving you an overview on the needs of the city that comes from the city side. And for example, this is a project that we're closing now, and these are some of the results that we can already share. This is Digitalisation had a survey which included 250 cities in Europe, and the aim is to analyze the digital transformation and digital innovation in Europe. And you can see different trends across Europe. You can see that, of course, global cities tend to be more digitally advanced, but you also can see that there are some more balanced performances, for example, in the Iberian Peninsula, but also more unclear patterns that still need to be figured out. The importance, or one of the main findings that I wanted to share, is that although we've been talking about open data, although we've been talking about digital transformation, digital innovation, there is still a path to work on. And this is more or less our findings show that the prowess to change related to the digital service innovation maturity, they show us that there is still a path to go. So this is a little bit the setup of what we have right now. So OASC has been developing several projects. Synchronicity is one of them, where we actually tested these minimum interoperability mechanisms, which were mentioned before, and that I will briefly talk about later, or describe a little bit more in detail later. But it enables us to have integration of real-time data, save resources. As Eloisa was saying in the first presentation, this is very important for us to have the value and to attribute value to our natural resources, to manage them in an efficient way, and the resilience and the sustainability of what we can do process-wise is very, very important for the cities. So we are talking about efficient management, more informed-based decision-making, and of course, ultimately improving the quality of life. This is another project that we have, which is Organicity. This project enables us to also put in a hands-on perspective, to also make those experimentations and try to develop our strategy in terms of co-creation, collaboration, this engagement of all the stakeholders in the quadruple helix or sextuple helix, all the ecosystem that we want, the innovation ecosystem that we want to have on board. Of course, always and again with the led by the cities. These are some project results that you can consult, which make a resume of what we did in those two projects, but we have several other initiatives, and we joined the Living in EU movement. This is, of course, a EU strategy developed by several of, I think, the people, the speakers here as well. So it is very citizen-centric approach. It is important to have a city-led, as I was saying, approach as well to the EU level, but it is also very important to have this multi-level perspective. So when we're talking about water, we're not talking only about water in a city, we're talking about water in a city, in a region, in a country, in Europe. So this multi-level perspective needs to be there. It is also very important for us to bet on the open innovation ecosystems and of course have responsibilities over social and ethical perspectives. We've been developing, I will not go too much in detail into those, but we've been supporting this process with several projects that are actually the places where we either set up the context and study, or that we implement, on. And this is just the vision of how we align everything with what's happening at the European level and of course at the local levels. But the idea is really that we are aligned with all the movements from the European Commission, from in a country-wide perspective. And the idea really is that we came from research to market penetration. Our goal is really to join all the efforts of all the initiatives and all the projects that we are developing in advancing in this transformation, in this digital transformation. Of course, we are talking about water, but we have here also two other examples. We have the duet, the digital twins, which was just mentioned by Frank, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, this is the idea that we can have the digital, the city replica, let's say, of course, to manage in a more efficient way, I would say, all the resources, them being natural or not, or human resources, or others that can be used within the city level. This is very important for us because, of course, it's the beginning, I would say it's the tip of the iceberg, then we will need to develop the rest, but this is a very big step towards a more digital transformation. We have this also in other projects like the net zero cities, and here we're talking about more about climate neutrality, but for you to understand that really we are working in cities in a transversal and cross-sectorial way. So we do address all of these issues. What is then minimally needed for this to happen, for solutions to be exchanged and services to be developed and data to be shared? Well, we defined 10 MIMs, minimum interoperability mechanisms, which are the technical specifications that will allow communities and cities to replicate and to scale up their solutions globally. Of course, there are 10 MIMs, and I will not go in detail through all of them, but we have now reached a point where we've developed from 1 to 6, and then the 7th one as well, from 1 to 5, sorry, and the 7th one as well. So basically, we are working with cities to really identify this minimum mechanisms that will make them benefit from, of course, in terms of market, they will benefit from choice, flexibility, independence, economic development, and it will boost, of course, also the business part, which will be able to scale and to develop a more agile deployment. This reduces, hopefully, the risk for everyone, and it increases investments and innovation. In terms of policy innovation, we are talking about alignment. We are talking about scale, we are talking about market, but we are talking about what was already mentioned as well, avoiding vendor lock-in and other forms of being stuck to one provider. Okay, why minimal? Because we do understand that most of the cities worldwide, and in Europe, of course, as well, are actually medium-sized or small-sized cities. So we need to enable all the cities to achieve this step towards digital transformation, towards better engaging with their resources. So the idea really is to make this happen through allowing a sufficient flexibility to all of the cities, no matter the size, no matter the location, the geographical location, and to make them interoperable so that they can actually benefit from other developments that are happening elsewhere. Cities are, as I was telling you, at the core of this activity. This is an iterative process, so we have the inputs from the cities. We do go through all the, I will not detail it because I don't have much time, but we will go through all the process. And then, of course, this is an interactive process that goes back whenever needed. The important part of digital transformation is that we are aligning all of these concepts that I explained and that were explained before me. So the MIMS, the standards, this interoperability part with the final solutions. Of course, this is led by the city's needs and people and skills that exist in the entities, collaboration and co-creation, but is also led, of course, by technology and value chains. So all of those contribute basically to the local ecosystem. Just to close up, a small recap of what I've been saying. So data spaces for smart communities, it was always already shared in other presentations, but it is important to define guidelines and rules to ensure this trust and transparency. It is also important to promote access to availability of quality data, engage citizens and develop mechanisms to promote value. Some challenges, of course, there are much more than those, but some challenges that we have from the part of the city is with managing open data, deciding what is open data, what is not, common standards, how do we make them interoperable, how can we just make joint processes, the culture of experimentation and proneness to change. The perspective of added value is not always very clear. And then this cross-sectorial, of course, and horizontal approach, which is a challenge. Some recommendations, we would need to work on this in a long-term vision strategy that really enables us to achieve specific goals. Evidence policy making, agile, of course, always the agility and flexibility of this policy implementation, multi-level alignment, as I was mentioning before, and the digital services have to be designed taking into account also the user availabilities and all the complexity of the system. Then the final message would be really to validate this and validate again, an iterative process that we can change it through a piloting and testing. I'm just leaving here a few links to what I mentioned, and basically thank you so much for listening to me.
Perfect. Many thanks, Margherita, for this nice and marvelous speech. Several concepts, several elements have been added. You mentioned that the digital transformation it's pathway to go. So we have at the beginning of this path. But to go through it, it's important to have a multi-level perspective. You also, of course, highlighted that and put the stress on value on natural resources. So came back to the topic of today about water as natural resource. And it's also, you mentioned the Living In.eu initiative movement that bring this perspective. Also looking at market penetration of digital solution. In particular, now with this point, I would like to pass the floor to the last keynote speaker of the session. He's from Akpar, that is a company specialized in distribution and treatment of water. So we are now including the other perspective. So from the actual so the work in the field. So I would introduce with this Daniel Cardelus from Akbar, with his experience on expertise on computational design. With it focuses his career on designing, creating digital asset based on data analytics integrated with the IoT and GIS. Currently, his role is data product manager in Akbar. And in his career also, he was strongly involved and focused on digital disruption. So it's this speech clearly closed the chain of the overall keynote speaker today. So please, Daniel, the floor is yours. Daniel, you are mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm sorry, I had a problem with the micro. So let me share the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, not yet in presentation mode.
Right now, okay.
Now, yes, perfect, thanks.
So thanks for the opportunity to share this different perspective. So as far as I've been very carefully listening to my colleagues, I think it's a quite different perspective, because I would like to share with you 5 cents about our business and that approach in Akbar. So I hope it will be helpful for for closes the cycle, the circle. Sorry. Okay, first of all, it's just a little presentation about who is Akbar. Akbar is a Spanish company that we are specialized in distribution and treatment of water. So it's a very good thing to understand about the problem that is to dealing with data and to have a single vision of business in Akbar. We are constituted by more than 230 different companies, and we have more than 150 years of history. And the thing is, we are operating in Europe, South America mainly, and North America and Asia as well. And important thing now, because we are just merging, it's Akbar is now part of Veolia. That it's a huge holding, French holding, that I understand that everybody in the audience knows perfectly. So just few numbers. We have 150 years experience, but we are more than 15,000 professionals. We invest every year 42 million euros in R&D. Okay, so we have big numbers. We're a big player, in water industry. So let me share what is Digitalisation. Digitalisation is our digital and sustainable business approach to the market. Some of you has mentioned some different stakeholders, key roles. So let me share with you what is our approach to go to the market with the digital assets and digital solutions. So the Digitalisation is a digital operation center for water industry and environmental health in Europe. This is our claim. So we deal with those technologies you can see in the screen. I think that's everybody in the market is trying to take the most of each of these these different challenging and cutting-edge technologies. We especially have very focus on artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning, but also with things like computer vision, business discovery, or even things that it seems more far from our core business, like virtual reality or mixed reality. But for us, this is not only technology. We have in mind that there's a processes tech and people that it's absolutely working together. So for us, it's quite important to include on our digital proposal aspects like efficiency, circular, green, clean, collaborative. We are dealing with water with more than 150 years, so we understand that it's very crucial that how to manage this critical resource. Now we are more oriented to include not only water, entire environment. So our intention with Dynapsis is to create eco-digital transformation. And this is why we've created a network, the Dynapsis network. We've developed a hub network to share with the stakeholders you mentioned, and also with citizens. That's a very important part of the equation. All our new digital tools and work methodologies. So in every hub we've created along the Spanish territory, we've created an operative hub, a suite of digital tools, and a place for co-creation and alliances. Take into account that we are operating in every hub. So in big numbers we are 30 digital operated centers. We have more than 35,000 kilometers of sensorized networks. Every day we are dealing with 6 million IoT objects connected, and 15 terabytes of data is generated. So we are managing 21,000 smart hydraulic pumps. And okay, we have in production more than 10 predictive algorithms managing such critical processes. So this is where we are now in the territory. We have different cities with different areas of expertise. For instance, I'm located in Barcelona, where we have the resilient water and IoT for climate change. The first hub we created was Benidorm, that is specialized in urban management and green and blue infrastructures. But okay, we have a very ambitious plan to create as many hubs as we can as soon as possible, not only in Spain. So we are thinking in Latin America as well. That it's normally our next step. We differentiate three different focus in our digital offering. We are focused on water, city, and circular economy. In water, we go for transformation of the water cycle. In city, it's something important for us to help municipalities to implement their urban agendas, and even circular economy. We would like to help industries to be more sustainable and circular. And we think that we have enough experience and enough things to share with them to get it. Because okay, for one side, we've experts in operation water services. We've been doing for a long time, but we have all this. We have also this other side that we will like to help with new digital solutions with experience that it may be our added value. That the added value we can share with everybody. So in water, our main focus our customer experience and commercial processes. Smart metering, we bet from the beginning for smart metering, and now we have some big numbers of in data and meters managed. So we can say that we have a very good offering in smart metering. Also, we've very interested in real-time and 360 vision to be able to advance to create an advanced operation or portable and sewage networks. Also, we are interested in asset advanced management and field work management. Again, a very interesting point in advanced planned operation to transform the operation model towards the eco factory. The other one is comprehensive management and water resources, and of course, 24/7 centralized operation. In city, we would like to help the municipalities in order to implement their urban agenda and with some key KPIs to deal with the climate crisis and manage the climate crisis and urban resilience. A special mention is how we've started to create specific digital solutions to epidemiological management during the epidemics. Another service is environmental health and urban mobility, and green spaces management and biodiversity, sustainable tourism, because we have a strong presence in in Mediterranean seaside, so we understand what is tourism and how to deal with the amount of visitors that we have in Spain every year. And finally, the decarbonization. And in circular economy, we deal with different aspects, but it's mainly the energy, environment, water, and resources, with a special mention with energy and resources right now to help not only industry, also cities, and again agriculture and biodiversity. So the thing is, okay, that's a very good or a beautiful picture, beautiful portfolio to create. But the thing is, for us to deal properly with or to manage properly our data, to got it's key. And this is why we create a few years ago the Data Hub project. That is our data approach to try to get this portfolio in production and to be able to help to be a key player, in the ecosystem. So the first thing I would like to say is we are very aware of the data-driven path that we've identified from the beginning. So for us, a data-driven organization is the kind of company that uses a data science as a core strategy for IT business, so for its business. So the thing is, we started to analyze ourselves to make internal consultancy in order to understand in which of these maturity levels we are. So okay, as you see, there's we think that there's 5 different, every author says different things. In you can get different paths, different maturity levels. We feel comfortable with this. Well, the thing is there are 5 that resistant war, guided, savvy, and driven. I don't know exactly in which path we are right now, but the thing is we have we have a let's say a roadmap or a book in order to check the things we are doing and the goals we are achieving in this path. Here you can see just a guide to help us to understand in which one we are. In cases, I've seen one of my colleagues, or many of you, that you are mentioned how to collaborate, federate data, to share that, it's something very important. And this is something that you can see in the infrastructure level. Right now we are trying to use external data sources in terms of maybe the resource management at at our regional level in Spain. So we are dealing with these kind of things, but okay, we are trying to. We understand that we are doing strong steps, but okay, there's a long way to do still in the horizon. So, which is our data philosophy? And maybe I think it's very aligned with the things that we are listening in this beautiful session. Okay, all starts about domain-oriented ownership of the data. We will like, and I think we are achieving this goal, is to treat data as a product, because we would like to arrive to a federated computational governments. Remember, we are more than 230 different companies, different exploitation, water exploitation. So it's a mess. Believe me, I've been working with data in the house for a long time. It's really very difficult to share information, to be confident about the value of the data you're using. And after that, we would like to arrive to a self-service data platform that it's really the way we understand our experts will be able to create value from scratch, from raw data, and be able also to create this portfolio in such a proper way. The three, well, that's just to show you. This is our big picture. This is our Bible right now. This is the way we want to build, every of the levels of our ambitious data platform. I don't want to lie. We are working let's say consistently, but okay, it's difficult in large organizations like us. Some of our colleagues like Rafa Jimenez understands perfectly what I'm saying. And finally, I would like to just to share with you our three data strategy pillars that we believe that are the foundation of this challenging project. The first is systematic data management. Absolutely focus on process automation and automatic code generation. Otherwise, it's very difficult for large corporations and companies like us to get something. A common data model that I think we are absolutely aligned with all the rest of the audience and my colleagues. And finally, an agile modeling methodology. That this is something that we have very interiorized in our DNA for a long time, and we couldn't understand another way to arrive to the end. Finally, just a few things about each of these. About systematic data management, we are working in cities ingestion, change data capture ingestion, and automatic transformation in automatic quality process generation, and an end-to-end observability. In common data model, we are working hard in entity models, in Data Vault 2.0 model, in a unified hierarchy, in a centralized data government, and an information marks for data delivery. In agile modeling, we are very interested in business data owners, identify these business data owners, in working parallel development, and working with, we call it DevOps inside, with the DevOps best practices. That it's something that also we have implemented for a long time in our company. So That's my 5 cents. I would like to say thank you for all the people. I hope you are awake still. And anything you need, you can reach me in this email, and I'll be happy to respond to any of your questions. Okay.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for this speech that closed the first part of our session, bringing the voice of a company and the approach you are following to reach the market and support your community with somehow also multi-level perspective, I would say. And it's quite interesting that you are using this approach based on hub, that somehow recalls the hub concept. And so I see this a good starting point for the following part of the session, that is on our panel. We will start with the introduction from 3 research projects, and then we will open the open discussion. I will pass now the floor to my colleague Rafael, that will drive you along the panel session. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Roberto, and yeah, thank you to all the keynote speakers. It's been really really interesting, as you said. So overview from the entire, let's say, water world, from research to the actual, let's say, industry and utilities. And it's nice to see how all of us try to work together really to make it work. Yeah, now we'll have this final part of the workshop. Sorry. We will have first like 3, let's say, relevant research projects which are ongoing now, working with basically with water and data, which is pretty much like the topic for today. And then later we will have like 30 minutes panel discussion with all the people, with all the experts in the workshop. So first we will have the Impetus project, Impetus, which is presented by Aitor Pechero. You may have seen before in some of the presentations. Actually, he's a senior researcher and R&D project manager at Eurecat, with a strong background in AI and water. So he will have a 5-minute slot for presenting Impetus. So whenever you want, Aitor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rafa. So Impetus project is a Green Deal Horizon Europe project that started on October 2021. It is about how to create mitigation and adaptation climate actions and strategies around Europe. It covers all geographical regions in Europe, and it's mainly focused on the elaboration of the resilient knowledge booster, that is a combination between human and a digital perspective. For the human perspective, it's all about how to analyze people, how to create a robust community to establish a strategy and actions for facing climate change risks in Europe, but also to translate this regional knowledge to national and also European level. And on the other hand, that is, I think, more interesting for this session is just the elaboration of a digital ecosystem, a digital tool, just to help the government and the experts on the elaboration on these pathways, but also on the selection of innovation actions. This digital tool is on the base of open data spaces applied for climate data. And on top of that, we have trustworthy AI to create curated data sets, and also AI-driven tools for creating climate projections, climate forecastings, analysis of anthropogenic factors, but also analysis of patterns on the data. And I think that it's all from my side. So if you have any question, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Aitor. Yeah, trying to bring my video back. So next we'll have Natasha from CERT, from the CERT ITI Research Center. So Natasha, his background is on electrical and computer engineering, and actually now he's a senior research associate CERN, and here she will present Wqms, which is about water monitoring with based on Copernicus. So Natasha, everyone.
Thank you very much, Rafael. So hello, everybody. I would like to make a short introduction on Wqms, which is a Horizon 2020 EU-funded project. It has started on January 2021, and the end is on June 2023. Some generic information: the consortium consists of 11 partners, including research institute, not-profit organizations, water authorities, etc., and is coordinated by the EOS team of CERN. The focus is on the 5 use cases, including Polyptos Reservoir in Greece, the Lake Piansema in Finland, the Giretta Lake in Italy, the suction in drinking waters in Germany, and the surface water in the region of Spain. Wqms target is to provide an operational water quality emergency monitoring service to the water utilities industry in relation with the quality of the drinking water by using Copernicus products and services. So it uses Copernicus data and information access services found in OntaDIAS instead of setting up its own download and processing infrastructure. On the other hand, through Wqms, what we aim is that citizens to gain a deeper insight and confidence for the selected key quality elements of the drinking water. So the services that are actually offered include the monitoring and identification of slow developing phenomena, such as anthropogenic release of potentially polluting elements, or pollutants that are leaching in the underground due to human activities. And it involves, let's say, the water quality feature changes and flood water transition zones. Also fast developing phenomena such as floods, spilling debris, algae bloom detection, which let's say produce huge quantities of contaminants at a short time. This is, let's say, the how we define the fast developing phenomena. Thus, eventually Wqms will establish these processing chains as online services. It will develop an alerting module that will deliver alerts about incidents through Twitter data, and elaborate on a training scheme that allows users and end users to gain insight and familiarity with Copernicus services and the ability to understand and use the functionality of the Wqms. The main ambition of Wqms is to become a candidate service component of the Copernicus Emergency Management Service, and ultimately to be approved by the member states to be embedded in the existing Copernicus portfolio. Currently, Wqms has completed the first review, so I mean we are past the first half of the project and is working on the first prototype integration on the platform. That's all. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. Yeah, thank you very much for the really concise but complete presentation about this project. Where we have actually Copernicus there, which definitely is another relevant, really relevant thing about data which is happening right now. So finally, for this, let's say, short introduction of projects, we have Demetris Eliadis, who is a research assistant professor at Chios at Cyprus, and he will shortly present PathoCert. So Demetris.
Thank you, Rafa. Good morning to everybody. My name is Dimitris. This is a short introduction of PathoCert. PathoCert means Pathogen Contamination Emergency Response Technologies. It's a consortium. It's comprised of a consortium of 23 partners led by the University of Cyprus and the Chios Center of Excellence. We're also in the middle of the project. It's a 7 million euros project as part of the Disaster and Resilience Society's topic of the European Union. It's area project. We have a number of partners that are from academia and research, as well as from the industry, SMEs, as well as a group of stress responders and water operators. So the problem is that when there is an emergency, such as a flooding or an earthquake, etc., first responders may be exposed to pathogen, to waterborne pathogens. As a result, this can have an effect on the human health. So essentially, PathoCert lies in the heart of emergency response, public health, and smart water systems. Our goal is to design and demonstrate emergency response technologies by developing new sensors, new low-cost sensors, tools for enhancing situational awareness during contaminations, as well as intelligence and decision-making tools that will assist both the first responders, but also the water operators and the water authorities to collaborate effectively and manage the situation. To do all of this, essentially we are implementing an emergency, let's call it an emergency data space, in the spirit of the discussion that we have here today, where we integrate all of these technologies and data coming to a unified ICT platform. And we're going to demonstrate this in different in pilots in different countries, in Greece, in Cyprus, in Spain, in the Netherlands, in Bulgaria, and in a tabletop format in Korea. Our vision is to reduce the impact of potential contamination events for the society and the environment. And the end goal, of course, is to have such a system installed within each country so that they're able to manage these emergency situations as fast as possible with a minimum number of, with the smallest impact. I think that's in a nutshell. Back to you, Rafa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dimitris. Thank you very much. Yeah, we see, I guess it's very interesting, all the opportunities to see how, so all the innovation which is coming from water, which actually maybe is not a sector which was known for the innovation coming from me, but actually we see how, especially now with all the context we've been discussing, of course, of climate change, how relevant is water, and actually how digital water is really gaining momentum. So now we'll move into the let's say open discussion. We're a bit behind schedule, so we may have to reduce these a little bit, like have like a 25-minute discussion. So I will ask all the speakers to turn on the camera, and actually, yeah, we have some sorry, some questions prepared for, yeah, really to try to wrap up these the concepts we've been discussing today, and actually, yeah, see really how all these different stakeholders which are represented here today, and actually that as we see, we are here to collaborate around that spaces for water. How could we can make it happen? So first, I would like to really throw you this question about how really, actually the overall background today, we'll be discussing about the digitalization of water and somehow how data spaces can really unlock collaboration around environmental and urban data sharing. And actually, this is so the final goal is really make the Green Deal happen. Just this very, let's say, high level and high overview introduction. We've some tips already now coming from the industry side, from Daniel, but really, which are the main challenges we are facing to really address these. So okay, we need to make data sharing happen to really go ahead with the Green Deal. Which are the challenges and actually that we are still facing, and actually which can be the impact? So as I mean, imagine that in 10 years we have really been successful, hopefully, and we have this water data space available. Is something, it has data and APIs. How will the water sector benefit from that? So which are the challenges, and then which is going to be the impact? And this is really open for everyone.
Rafael, I could say my opinion first because I don't see anyone else. So, of course, data sharing in all the domains, and the water domain included, is of great interest because for let's say, starting from my background for AI, in order to have the development of algorithms, we need the data. currently, unfortunately, this is, let's say, done mostly within the specific projects. There is the data sharing, but is, let's say, kept within the collaborations and the partners of the projects. With opening the data, if one tries to go beyond that, data sharing is not so easily, because due to the time and the economic effort that was put by institutions to gather all this data, they are reluctant to sharing the data. And this puts a kind of obstacle. I believe if we turn this over, if we just try to if we succeed in data sharing, then there will be, let's say, an explosion of new techniques, of better results, which is coupled with the fact that also satellite data are now open to the interested communities and scientific partners. This will, let's say, have a great impact. At least as I see it in AI community. Thank you.
I would like to say something. The thing is, as a player in the industry, the thing is, sometimes we internally compare with the rest of our utility friends or utility brothers, and the thing is, I think that we are not as much technified or transformed as the others. Yeah. So water industry, I think that we have a very space in front of us to reach the same level of electricity, energy. So I think the challenge is to try to have one vision, to try to set apart the, let's say, the business, the business, you know, the economic aspects, put just in the center of the discussion, that we are managing a very critical resource. Yeah, so we have a responsibility, because climate change doesn't going to stop. Yeah, so there's an environmental, there's a huge challenge in front of us to face. So for me, it's key. It's key to try to get this common space, common data space, because in other way we are not going to be to reach, the same level of technology, of opportunities that the rest of our friends, utility friends. Yeah.
Yeah, if may I think also, as Danny said, it is critical aspect. For my side, is just we have a lot of tons of data that we are collecting nowadays. We have data from water, several data from satellite images, indexes for climate. We have different heterogeneous data. Some of these data are locked, that impedes also to dig into more decision-making procedures. I'm on the front of, I think, for water and for the climate to interlink this data, to combine this data not only for water, for agriculture, for energy, to create balance, strategic and operational decision making, just to create the things that the word says, win-win strategies on this regards. But we also know that I think that is on the presentation of Daniel, or partially on the presentation of Daniel, that we need to be, we have a governance by methodology behind, just to allow this data sharing, regulations for sharing data between countries, and all these aspects that are critical, just to provide this free flow of information around the different domains. And this is another challenge. This should be covered over these data spaces or these data architectures. Thank you.
So, Dimitris or Margarita, you both have your hand raised.
Yes, it was just a small comment to add up to all this. Of course, for us, is essential, is a key element. Otherwise, we wouldn't be developing the MIMS. Otherwise, we wouldn't be developing this collaboration between cities. One of the things that we do understand is that data is seen or perceived by many entities as actually a business. So I do understand this economical part of it. And what I think is lacking is the global vision of the added value. So if we don't perceive this added value of sharing data, then what for? And so this is, of course, not only in terms of the economic perspective, but also capacity building. Do we have the capacity to ensure quality of data, to ensure its update? We need to invest effort in that. So besides the first investment, we need to have a cost that is that will be for years, or how much time we want to have this data open. Then what we also perceive in terms of cities now, much more probably than in terms of other entities, is that it is difficult to understand what kind of data can be shared. There are no governance models. So what kind of data should I share? Shouldn't I share? Who should make this decision? How is this process? And many times in institutions like cities, it's so difficult to understand who's leading this process that sometimes people would rather not do anything than making a mistake. So this is also something that I would like to share. Of course, the final thing is mainly about the amount of data that we were talking about. Is so many data. How do we connect it to other data? What is relevant? What is not relevant? These are so many questions that until cities in this case have some kind of concrete answers, I think that there will always be certain kind of at least fear to do this process. So this is just a small input on this.
If I can share also some of my thoughts here. So Rafa said about the challenges and about the vision. I think the challenges are, we have multiple challenges. We have financial challenges, and that is all these water utilities and authorities, they need to understand that investing in these technologies is worthwhile. This is not the case right now, and because I'm talking with water utilities, of course, we're not talking always about Akbar, but there are hundreds of thousands or the tens of thousands of water operators in Europe, small ones that are outside this discussion, and they need to be convinced, each one separately. It's a policy issue. It's policies. It's a lot of organizations will not do anything unless there is an EU directive and a local law driving this change. So eventually, of course, it's a mindset of people. Having said this, I'm optimistic that we are going to have this, and this, especially to have these standardized ways and explain to the people how to procure solutions that utilize these. We saw, for instance, before about ETSI, the ISG standard that that can be integrated into solutions. I think this will take us a step closer to the vision of smart water networks. But not only have smart water networks, but for instance, which is the area that I work on a lot, but also in a more broader sense, also as what I said before about our project, about these emergency data spaces, because imagine a future where, for instance, you have, just to share a vision of the future, imagine a future where you have an emergency event happening in your city, and in a seamless way, the water authorities share data with first responders, with microbiologists and research centers, sharing models, running simulations, SMEs, forecasting the evolution of something, the evolution of demands, having all of these different players, actors, academia and research, SMEs and operators and governmental authorities and local regional governments, sharing data, exchanging data, and coming up with smart solutions and decisions in order to minimize the impact of these events. So this would be, in my vision, hopefully in 10 years' time, we will have reached that level.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would say that it's, so we all agree on the really like on the promise, on really the impact that we can generate. I mean, actually, I would say that all of us, we are still working on promises. So it's really now time to really deploy things, deploy systems, actually make things work available. And then I would say that visualize that value that we know that's there. But as you said, yeah, it's a very complex issue. I would say, impression, I would say from the technology side, technologies there of course, there are large technology challenges, but technology is much faster than let's say mindset, and much faster than regulations. So it's pretty much about governance, etc. So I guess that we have a good conclusion here. And actually, next question, I guess that it's somehow answered, because it was about, so really, as been mentioned, and it's nice because it's not just from the industry side, but all of us, I guess that we all agree in that we need a business model behind this. So actually, this has to be sustainable. As anything else, I would say today, it has to be sustainable, and it has to provide some sort of business model behind for everyone, for research and for companies. So I don't know if there's any idea or any insight on really how to build that, because I would say that maybe for the comments, yeah, we have the regulations on one hand side, but we have this, let's say, lack of a clear business model for this. I don't know if there's any short, because it has been somehow mentioned, but any, let's say, addition on, okay, how can we build business models for that, or who should build it? Because maybe it's not us. Maybe we have to, or definitely it's not just us, for cities, for companies, but what else could we do really to provide this clear business model on a slide which says, hey, if we do this investment in capacity, because yeah, we need an investment, yet we have tons of data, as Aitor said, but we need more investment to make it really data that can be used. Yeah, where should this business model come from? Because it's something which is, I guess it's key.
Frank speaking. Maybe I can say a few words here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to give you the business model you are asking for. Anyway, from my perspective, this will not come only from one domain, from the water domain. And where I see things moving is when we look at the scale of a territory, for example. So where you have mixed of urban and rural areas, and where you have to manage not only water, but energy, agriculture, and so on. And that's where we'll start to have optimization to do. And when you will be able to do some optimization on water usage, for example, or handling of even water extreme events, as the speaker was mentioning, then at some point you will have some gain. And this is the first step toward business model, because if you gain something, then you are encouraged then, okay, to invest and to do things. So from my perspective, a lot of things should come from the local public authorities, not especially cities, but widely the territory around. So looking at all domains which are really interacting and where exchanging data is really meaningful.
Okay, we have Dimitris and then Aitor.
No, I think first Aitor.
Yeah.
Okay. From the business model, I think, and in relation with you said, Rafa, about data, I think that it's two-side benefits or things that we need to demonstrate. On the one hand, we need to demonstrate that it is beneficial, that there's added value for the water utilities and the companies, this data, extracting knowledge for this data, and they are optimization in the operational aspects, for example, or in the planning, or just to detect emergencies in the water utilities. And on the other side, I think that it's also important just to engage a community. For example, consumers engaging to bring data or open this specific consumption data, for example, or whatever practices that it put it on households or whatever. Yes, and just to strengthen the collaboration with the water utility, just for example, establishing dynamic pricings or something beneficial for both sides, just to make public the data and also the community pushing up newer data and help in the operational, in the planning to the water utilities. So for me, it's on this way is create a community, but also to make it also transform this community-based data onto a more operational planning for the water utilities.
So from my side, since I'm coming from a research, let's say, background, but at the same time, I have been involved in spin-out companies and startups working on smart water systems. I fully echo this need of the startups and the SMEs coming from the academia, from research. These scientific companies working with data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, doing optimization, monitoring, control, decision making, and anything and everything in between for the water industry in general. They have a severe lack of access to data, and as a result, a lack of access to the market and to opportunities. And this is a European issue. So there are big opportunities there. Every year, hundreds of people are finishing their universities with expertise nowadays in machine learning and AI, and even more specialized in the areas of smart water systems, for instance, which is an area that I know very well. And these people, they are developing tools, and they don't really have the mechanisms to utilize them. You know, they cannot go everywhere in Europe. It's a very decentralized system, the water system, for instance. And this it's not very easy. A lot of big players, but even more small players. So coming up with a way to offer this solution. So it's a solution for both sides. It's a solution for both the utilities to get access to, you know, an SME in Cyprus, for instance, offering data analytics services to a water utility, let's say in Bulgaria or somewhere else within the European Union. By utilizing this mechanism, this could create a stream. This is one branch, of course, of the whole business plan. It cannot be just, there isn't a single feedback loop that we need to do, but it's going to be multiple ones. But I think this one, specifically from where I'm coming from, is going to have this multiplicative effect. And hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we need data to build business models, and we need business models to make. So it's a good challenge, but yeah, I guess it's pretty clear. So we have like 5 or 7 minutes ahead until the conclusion. I had just 2 more. I would say that everything about governance, context, I guess it's clear. So I mean, of course, it's super busy, but it's clear. Just by also adding a bit of a, let's say, technical or really like a more focused data questions to the whole thing, I would just suggest two additional, let's say, issues. One is really about the we've seen some of them here, and we have, for example, I mean, ITOR, FRAN, which are heavily involved in a lot of industrialization efforts across Europe, across industrial data. Which is your impression? And maybe also here, it's nice also to have the industry, because at the end, if this is not adopted by the industry or by the utilities, it's really the impact of all these initiatives is going to be very limited. Which is really your impression on these standardization initiatives, and in particular the ones looking at the water data? So why do we expect these let's say standard data models, whatever, really, or what do we need to do to have them adopted by, as Ameti said? So of course we have a super complex ecosystem of water utilities, but really like something which is known by the water utility community, and really which is in the roadmap, which is something which has an adoption roadmap by this community. So how is this really today?
Okay, maybe Frank speaking, I can start saying a few words on that. So it's taking time. Because it's a lot of also, okay, people first needing, okay, these companies need to understand why they would need this layer of interoperability, why they will start exchanging data. And when I speak to utilities or to big utilities, at least in France, it's quite a close world. It's they really don't want to share data. It's highly sensitive. Accessing any of the resources almost impossible. But they start having some issues, both internally and externally. Internally, they are growing, they're developing a lot of services which are being developed by several departments. And even internally, they start facing these interoperability issues. So they are interested in getting this common model where all the different applications developed by different departments can talk to each other. So that's the first point where we see interest and way to discuss with people and promote these activities. And externally also because they see that, okay, they also have to diversify themselves. So the cities are not only asking them to do the water distribution, water management, but also, okay, provide all other aspects. And for example, they deploying smart metering facilities, so means, okay, they are going to be able to collect data for tens of thousands of smart meters over the city. So quite often they develop their own network. So the city are asking them, okay, you are building that infrastructure. Why will not you collect as well sensor information from the parking, from the air, and so on? And then they start asking, okay, how could I do that? Which interface, which model, and so on. And that's the second aspect where I see people are gaining interest, and we get more and more requests about this kind of companies saying, oh, could you help us with the fiber ecosystem, with the open model to go toward this interoperability? So it takes time, but it's moving.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds promising. Okay. There was a very short, or we have like 3 minutes ahead. Just to finalize, I would say the map of the things we have to address. We've heard at the end, yeah, coming to the roots. We need more data management and data engineering. I guess that AI is there. The algos are there. That's like this part of the tool set is there, but the data management and the data engineering is still to be done. So we are on the maturity, raising the maturity level as a sectors, and as definitely. So in the end, everything goes to AI. We all want to do AI because, yeah, that's our tool to really solve our issues, save the world. But then we have realized that to do that we need data management and data engineering is a true enabler of AI. So together, of course, with governance, etc., from the technical perspective. Do you know of any let's say experience or how is the data, let's say, industry, data sector, also the research? I mean, how is there any relevant or use case or a success case that we can share about, okay, how data engineering and data management really to make things happen is being deployed over water? And I'm thinking both on the research, but also on the industry side. So how mature is water in terms of data engineering? Are we investing on that? Because part of that capacity building that was mentioned by Margarita, at the end, it ends on investing on data management. So which is your feeling on that? It's very like I would say good, bad, work in progress, because we have just 1-2 minutes to really have time to wrap up. But is there any? Yeah, we have Danny here.
We are not very well, to be honest, in data engineering. We are not experts. So we have pretty good plans. We have very ambitious plans to implement AI models and so on. But once you dive in, the problem of data, how to collect, how to, okay, maybe during ingestion, you have some clever ideas. You can use some things that really makes a contribution, to the success of the project. But once you arrive to try to automate the process, one to try to really create an architecture that functions like like a clock. That's very, very difficult. That's difficult to get experts involved in the project. That is very difficult to make understand internally in your company the benefits to invest in that piece of of the architecture. So we need to improve a lot of not only technically, even in how to sell, internally. This because for me, I came from the technical part, and I understand perfectly that okay, you can create the best EA model in the world, but once you make him, you put on production or try to deploy, you can fail miserably because you can reach your key users, and you can bring the value that we thought at the beginning that we was creating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's also.
Sorry to be so crude, but it is my reality.
Okay, so it's 5 minutes left. Maybe Roberto, it's time to wrap up.
Thanks a lot for this discussion. Thanks a lot, Rafael, to managing this. The moment up to my knowledge, there is no specific question from the audience, so we can go to the conclusion. First, I would like to thank all of you for your participation and for the interesting discussion, because I had during this panel I caught some elements in particular. I would stress on the governance need, governance structure needs in order to support the potential stakeholder concerning, in particular, the data sharing. But there is also the discrepancy, I would say, in between the value perceived on data sharing and the cost required to enabling an actual data sharing in water sector, but I would say in general at city level. And again, there is this balance in between value perceived and cost on one side, value perceived and control also on the other side. There are some good way to go, for sure, increasing, let's say, through, for example, the use of a wider ecosystem, mobilize a wider ecosystem, in particular, applying the approach of learning by example, learning by doing. In this, there is a good practice pushed by the Wqms mechanism. With this regard, maybe we could also try to have a specific vertical on water there, but this is something that we could consider in the future, interactive with the Wqms. Nevertheless, I would stress that please, this is a key, a hot topic, I would say. So stay in touch with us for sure. At the moment, from Big Data Value Association, the Smart Governance and Smart Cities Working Group will focus on the field on water. So creating a glue with all the other entities involved today in the discussion. Stay tuned. Some good news will appear in the future, just right after the summer. So for already some initiative that we'll see all together connected and working. supporting the digital technologies in water sector, but also in general in cities and communities. So many thanks many thanks to all of you, and for the audience, enjoy the following session. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.